post it in YouTube. I'll post it in Discord if it doesn't already.
All right, welcome everybody. My name's Nick, KN6DAL, and welcome to the 2 Meter Crew Anti-Net. Tonight we want to make sure that we thank the owners and supporters of the W6VVR and Vaca Valley Radio Club, the Contra Costa Fusion Repeater System, and the freestar Network, as well as WG5EEK for all of the digital connections, which seem to be the only ones that are working tonight. If there's any priority traffic, you can stop the anti-net at any time by saying break, break, and we'll clear the frequency. Is there any priority traffic at this time? All right, nothing being heard. The 2 Meter Crew's not an actual club. We're just a group of ham radio enthusiasts. We're learning, enjoying everything ham radio related. There's no dues or fees or sign-ups or anything to be a 2 Meter Crew member. For more information, you can visit our Facebook site at 2MC. You can also join our our Discord group, and we'll post some links to that in the chat as the night goes forward. And there's also, I believe, a link in the description on YouTube. The 2 Meter Crew Anti-Net is an open net, and it's welcome for everyone. You can join in anytime. We want to hear any and all activity out there, so feel free to chime in whenever you get a chance. The 2 Meter Crew Anti-Net also meets every Wednesday at 7 p.m. on the W6VVR repeater with a 145.470 megahertz frequency. The offset is 600 kilohertz, and the PL tone's 127.3. All right. In addition to that, there are many, many ways that you can reach us digitally, two of which are through Echolink through either WG5EEK-L or W6VVR-R. You can also reach us on All-Star node 51094 and 51010, among many others. DMR Talk Group 3149964 will get you right here. YSF Reflector 24033 will come to the same exact place. And if you're touching us on Contra Costa Repeater System, all of those repeaters are linked as well. The YSF room number, or Wires X, and the YSF reflector number are 80280 for that link. And then also through freestar, there's many, many ways to access freestar. Two of which are their all-star links 2195 and 53375. And if that's not enough for you, the Anti-Net's also being live streamed at Northwest Ham Shack. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe to the channel. We love having everybody out here. So before we get started with everything, is there any stations out there that have never checked in with us before or are new to ham radio, maybe just got their license, and or possibly some license upgrades? I know we've had some people that may have passed their general or taken some tests in the recent past. If that fits you, come on in now. We want to hear from you. I got a partial call, but I think that might have been Bert. All right, I got EFRs. I'm not sure who that was, but come on in. All right, yeah, I saw that in a couple of the chat groups, Bert. That's awesome. Congratulations on passing your general, and I hope that HF treats you well. It seems like the bands are getting better and better. Congrats. So tonight we have a couple of issues that have taken place. Issue number one is the W6VVR repeater is undergoing a little bit of issue as far as I believe the receive on side on it. There's a lot of crackle and noise. Some people are probably hearing that. If you are coming in through the W6VVR repeater, I apologize for the possibility that the audio may or may not be very good tonight. Not a whole lot that I can do all the way up here, but I can assure you there are many people trying to fix that problem as we speak. And then in addition to that, we're also having some connectivity issues, and the guest that was coming in tonight hasn't been able to make it yet. And so we're working on trying to get those connection issues sorted out as well. So until we can get that going, I figured I would maybe pass it over to some of the other coordinators in the chat and see what they had to say about tonight's topic. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Chris, N6CMB, from Nick, KN60AL.
Waiting for my little green light to show up. That's the way I know we're broadcasting, at least digitally. There it is, my green light. I got my little countdown going. Hello, everyone. N6CMB, Chris and Clayton. So, yeah, we're without a topic. So I've got probably some random questions in my head, and I've got some ideas to get folks talking. So what I want to start it off with is tonight is going to be Stump the Coordinator night. Now, this isn't a chance for you to break out like your, extra questions just to try to get us to not know something. You got to have a real question, something you really want to know about. And between all of these super experts that we've got here, and mostly the people that are on the radio that might actually know something, we're going to answer your question tonight. So we're going out to the field. You got to, what's been bugging you? What's been giving you trouble? What's that one thing about digital that you can't quite figure out? Stump your coordinators tonight. I don't know. We could have giveaways. You never know. Nick's like sitting on a pile of radios up there in Washington. You could give one away tonight. We might come on the right topic. So let's get out there first. How about proof of life? One thing that always cracks me up a little bit is sometimes when we get guys from Freestar, they don't even know that they're on Freestar because they're just on like whatever normal reflector they're hitting or whatever. So how about we get someone who knows they're coming in through Freestar just to check in tonight? Come ahead now. Dun, 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 dun.
Chris, this is Nick, KN60AL. I'm gonna link Freestar directly to my All-Star because I think that I'm receiving Freestar right now through the W6VVR machine.
It might be rough.
We're gonna have some problems. So stand by, and I'm gonna link that. Give me just 1 second.
All right.
But for all those folks in YouTube land, we can still talk to you all,
Oh yeah, they can hear you loud and clear.
All that good stuff.
Can you imagine the awkward silence on the radios right now for the people not watching on YouTube, right?
Well, we're like faces for radio, so we like awkward silences.
This is like that first date with your wife, or whoever became your wife, right? Like a total awkward silence. You're being a dork. You don't know what to say. And turns out later, she actually digs you, right? Surprise,
until
surprise.
I put antennas on the roof.
All right, we're linked up. Let's give that another shot. Maybe call out for some Freestar folks. I'll key it up.
All right, November 6th, Charlie Mike Bravo, Chris in Clayton, California, coming back to try to find some folks on Freestar. We made a little technical change. Nick unplugged a bunch of wires out of the back of his radio and made a quick little fusion box to connect directly to Freestar. So let's give it another try. Who thinks they're coming in through Freestar? Dun, 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 dun. I can do that because we're not in the air, right? We can do music and stuff, right?
No, we're live on YouTube.
Yeah, but they don't have FCC regulations. They just have YouTube regulations.
Copyright claim.
Yeah, things like copyright, So.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
As long as you sound enough like Muzak, you should be able to get away with it, man.
All right, let's see if we can get anybody to come up on a question. We're really gonna have to dig deep tonight. All right. Well, geez, we must have a lot of listeners on Freestar. Or my point is true that people don't actually know. We're like magically showing up on everybody's local repeater and reflector and D-Star and wherever we're going out there. How about someone who's on Cocoa Fusion? Anybody listening out there? Just proof of life.
NDO, Kilo 7. NDO from Seattle.
Kilo 7 NDO from Seattle. Thanks for checking in and letting us know that someone is out there listening. How's your evening going?
I didn't key you up. I'm sorry.
Oh,
go ahead.
That's all right. KN70. I probably got it wrong now. I got it right the first time, but we didn't key up. We're having a night, really. So, hey, how's it going up there in Seattle?
It's Kilo 7 November Delta Oscar coming in from the All-Star side this time. How copy?
Nick, did you catch that second call? I didn't get it. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're keyed up. Yeah, you, Indio, you are coming in good.
And he was coming in through All-Star, is that right?
Well, thanks, gents. I got both of them going on here just in case, because it seems like there's been some technical difficulties this evening on other nets that I've been doing with the voice over internet protocols and the internet in general. So I wanted to make sure my voice could be heard this time. What was the topic?
All right. I'm not getting the audio all that great, Nick. I think just because of the way it's coming through on the Zoom for me. So I didn't catch all that. Can you?
Yeah, I'll relay that. His question was, what is the topic tonight?
All right. Well, we'll go back to it. The topic tonight is Stump the Coordinators. I hate that name, man. We can't be coordinators. We need a better term for us. Nickites or Nick guys or Little Nicks. But we got a
uncoordinated.
We need something. But stump the guys. Give us some questions. The only rule is you can't just make up some outrageously crazy, difficult question. It's got to be something that's real in your ham life. So any real question you got, it's impossible to stump us. I'll tell you right now.
K6RNL here. May I ask a question?
K6RNL, fire away with your question. What do you got?
The ICOM D5100 I have in my Jeep has a D-Star, which in terms of digital modes, I use All-Star and DMR and almost never D-Star. So I have a question about D-Star. Pause.
You hearing that, Chris?
Yeah, cue me up, Nick.
Anyhow, if I'm driving across country and I find a D-Star repeater nearby, can I program that into a different reflector group so that I could say, like join the anti-net from Illinois or something? Does D-Star work that way? That's my question.
All right. Well, we got lucky on this one. I know a little bit about D-Star, and I have that radio in my truck. So we're gonna go 1 for 1, I think, here to start with for the anti-coordinators. Yeah, you can. It's very similar to Fusion or even DMR and talk rooms and things. So as you pick up those repeaters going across country, Unless the operator or the owner operator of that repeater has locked out that functionality, you can go ahead and direct it to any reflector that is up and available. Now, they do have the option to block reflectors. That's built into the software system they have, but generally they're open. So yeah, if you know, like, you're going to keep in touch with someone on reflector 14, let's say, and you find you can hit a D-Star reflector while you're traveling across country, you basically use the D-Star commands to link to reflector 14, and once you're connected, whoever else is on that reflector, you guys are talking nationwide, worldwide. So it's a good way to keep in touch when you're traveling. The 5100 has a great list of reflectors that are built into the radios. You can even scan through those when you're traveling. Be careful. A few of them I have found are not fully correct. There's a few offsets and things that are wrong, but that's pretty rare. Normally they're okay. But yeah, you get a list of them. You can do it good and use your D-Star to get it all around the world. Now, getting into the anti-net might be a little touchy because you have to have somebody who has bridged the two modes together. Now, underground guys like Mike, they know about stuff like that and where to find it. But regular guys like us might not know where to find that reflector to tie in. So technically it's possible, but unless someone has made that bridge across modes, you're not going to be able to connect from D-Star over to Cold Fusion. Mike, you want to throw anything in on that?
Yeah, so Chris is exactly right. This is WG5PEK. So all those cross modes, like someone's went out and set up either some kind of Linux box or something to make all that work. And sometimes it gets a little crazy. As you can see tonight, we're having a little bit of technical issues because we have so many connections. But usually what would happen is there's this other linking software that you can get, and it's all free. It just takes somebody to do it. Now you could do it, but you would have to have the owner, the repeater owner's permission, or the talk group's owner's permission, or reflector's owner's permission to do all that stuff. So all the stuff that we're doing here now, like we've gotten permission, like a handshake deal over virtual email or Zoom or whatever. So it's possible, but I wouldn't just go and do it without someone's permission. It's just bad form, like it's just kind of rude. That's it. Yeah. Back to you guys.
All right. Well, let's see. Did that answer the question? Let's go back to the original asker.
Yeah, that
Hey, I gotta.
that answer makes a lot of sense. I appreciate it, and not totally related, but indeed, how I wound up joining the anti-net. I met Nick on a random repeater that I dialed up using the GPS database on the D5100, so it really is a great radio. Thanks again for that information.
Hey, Greg, I got a comment for you as well about what I like about the 5100 and what I really like about D-Star as a digital mode that a lot of other modes that I've not seen is D-Star enables you to be able to track calls and recall them later. So, like, for instance, if your friend's over in Florida and you're out in San Francisco, right, and you talk to him, you get on, this guy likes D-Star and he's around, you could look for him on repeaters. It'll show you where this other call is and enable you to hook up to the same repeaters they're on, whether it was the repeater you met them on or were speaking on them previously, but it'll show you where they are now and let you be able to do that, which I think is just something unreal compared to other digital modes. I've never seen it on another one. That's just my D-Star comment there.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. DMR has a similar feature. You can reach out to guys by their DMR number and make a private contact with them, which is pretty cool as well. Essentially, you don't need to know what room they're in or anything. If they're on the network somewhere, you can reach out and make contact, which we've used quite a bit amongst the small group of knuckleheads that use DMR around here. All right, well, I'm going to throw it back out there unless someone has another comment on the first question. Can anyone stump the anti-coordinators?
The answer to my first question. I was the first one to check in. I didn't get to ask nothing.
K7NDO. Yeah, go ahead. What's the question? What do you got?
This is what happened with K7NDO the last time. We lost contact with him.
Yeah, we'll give it one more shot. K7NDO. If you'd like to ask a question, go ahead. We'll pass it back over to you. Sorry that you got skipped there. KN60AL. All right, let's move it on.
I'm going to count that as we didn't get stumped. I think we actually answered the question because there was no question. So going back out there, remember, it's got to be a real question, something you're actually interested in. Stump the anti-coordinators. Remember, we do have phone a friend options, so it's not going to be easy. Either our we've hit an all-time low for people being out there, or
there we go.
Or we're like I don't know, not very popular tonight.
I think
this sounds
everybody's intimidated.
Weird, but I heard. I can hear Chris over RF, but I don't hear it when Nick's talking. I've heard Chris every time, but not Nick. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I think we could be having a little technical problems. Justin, are you listening on RF anywhere?
I'm going to disconnect Mike's node and go straight through Freestar. No? I'm linked to Freestar. And
because when Chris was going what was it? Nick, you asked for that last guy to come back, and then he didn't respond, and then Chris continued on. I didn't hear you ask for him, but I heard Chris.
I'm not going to chunk it, but KN6K. Testing.
I'm coming through on my end. It's feeding into YouTube.
Huh. Interesting.
Hey, go for it, Justin.
I hear him.
I hear you. It's super scratchy, but I hear you.
Yeah. I heard that on DMR.
All right, so it sounds like it took an entire repeater system, but it stumped the anti-net coordinators because we don't know what the answer is.
You're muted, Chris.
That was Brian.
Brian KN6BNQ, we gotcha.
Nah, I didn't hear that on DMR.
I tried using it once, and I guess it didn't come through, but I'll try it one more time. This is KN6BNQ. I got a somewhat simple question. Would it be a good idea to perform a Mars mod on what is a pretty expensive amateur radio with basically zero soldering experience? KN6VNQ.
You want to, Chris, you're unmuted. You need to unmute.
There
you go.
Magic. I think that was Brian with an eye asking, if you've got a really expensive radio and you want to make a mod, you're, naturally nervous about breaking that thing open and maybe doing some soldering on it. So here would be a little bit of advice for that. One is, make sure you've got like that really good YouTube video if you don't have a lot of experience with, working on circuit boards, small circuit boards. But it's not that hard, especially if you're dealing with pretty large, either like point-to-point connections or, big resistors. Where it's going to start to get tricky is small surface mount stuff. So Justin, is that when you got some really tiny surface mount stuff?
I was just going to make the point that you start with a pi 0. make sure you can solder. Make sure you're comfortable soldering. Don't use the expensive thing. Use a $20 part.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's ways to sort of build your skills, but if you just want to look at open it up. Don't be afraid to necessarily open your radio and look at it and say, okay, is this an easy location? Is it pretty big pins on a resistor maybe that you're taking out? Those kind of things are easy. If it's really small, yeah, Mike's got his magnifying glass. All those little tools help. If it's really small, you probably don't want to make that your first solder job. That small surface mount stuff, you get a little too much heat in there, you can damage the board really quick and the strips. And, next thing you know, you do kind of screw up your nice, fancy, expensive radio. So what would be my next thing if you're feeling a little uncomfortable is, man, do not hesitate to reach out to your Elmers, your club members, people that you know out here. Especially you, Brian, you've got a million of them, guys that have done this a billion times. They'd be happy to help you, and or better yet, show you how to do it so you can do it next time. So that would be the third route there. And taking total defeat, we never get fully defeated. So go ahead, Nick.
I'm also curious, Nick KN60AL here. What radio is your intention of modifying there, Brian? I'll send it back to you.
I'm just looking to remove the resistor on the Mars mod on it, just to kind of make it easier, because some of you may know I'm an explorer with an PD, and there's 12 to 13 of us who work events, and we only get 4 to 5 old hand-me-down Motorola handhelds, so enough for us, so I can make somewhat bring my own personal radio when it comes to events like that with a PD. It's a teeny tiny resistor to remove, but Yaesu makes it kind of easy for you, where you just dig off the battery and there's a little gasket that you peel off, and right in the middle of that hole there's that tiny resistor that you just somehow pull out. So that's just what I'm looking at. So KN6VNQ.
Nick, can you transcribe? Were you getting most of that?
Yeah. All right, this is Nick KN60L. Yeah, real rough copy on that, Brian, but I caught 85% of what you were saying. And yes, I would agree with you that particular modification on that radio, I don't know that it would be a super entry-level job if you don't have any exposure to soldering or the temperature of your soldering iron or anything like that. You might get somebody else involved just for the sake of the radio and how much they cost. But with all of that being said, that's not a very difficult one, and they do make that plug in the back that's really designed to make that modification. Just something to keep in mind, not to be the is that okay police, but technically that does make it not Part 97 compliant.
Greg, what radio is that we're talking about you showing?
It's the FT3D. This is what he's talking about here. There is underneath this plug, which they conveniently make for you, there's a diode underneath it. Easy to put on and off.
What happens when you do that? It shoots sparks, or what? Why are we doing that?
You could open it up so that you can gain access to 70 centimeter and possibly some other bands as well. GMRS bands and stuff like that. It's my nicest radio. I'm incredibly hesitant to do it myself, but should I decide to do it, I would think about possibly using one of those hot air guns rather than sticking my soldering iron in there. I've got quite a bit of experience completely destroying things with solder, and soldering irons and getting that heat so close to it. But as I understand this mod, you might be able to do this like if you had like a hot air gun or an air dryer set on high. Just provide enough heat to loosen up that solder and possibly push it off. That would be the approach I would take. personally, just because I'm super scared to kind of mess with my radio. But I think that's a little more insight there. That's the way I've thought about giving that exact mod a shot.
Yeah, Shavando behind the scenes told us that this is the on this one is the Mars mod, so it's a pretty easy mod to make on a lot of radios. So it's probably set up to be fairly easy on this. But I always ask myself, I always see that Mars mod and stuff. Like, all right, we've got 6, 8 hams here. Has anybody done a Mars mod and had a use for it?
I've not. I've got 70 centimeter radios.
Justin did. He's going to be my wild card.
Nope.
I'm just excited because who I see connecting here. So haven't done a Mars mod, but the Mars mod's also supposed to be for. Isn't there a military auxiliary radio service, and that's what Mars stands for? So
yep.
I think anyone with military that has the right licensing, that they have a great purpose for it. So.
I've heard of that mod that term used to open up radios and possibly, just expand what you can do there. So, I mean, I'm totally about experimenting and stuff like that. I'd be careful with that radio specifically. Hey.
I'm checking in K4. Who was it now in North Carolina on the? God, I'm losing my mind. K4NCU was checking in on YouTube, so I'm checking him in there. Yeah, no, I always wonder a little bit. I mean, like as hams, we always want to do these mods to be like my radio can, go from from broadband to daylight and whatever in between, and I've done all the mods and everything. But then if we're good hams, we're not using them. We're not broadcasting if we don't have a reason to. And I know about that military. Reserve network there, but I don't know anybody who's actually done it. Maybe we've got someone on the airwaves tonight who could check in, but our special super guest star rolled out of bed, so maybe we'll check in with him.
Good morning, everybody.
Hey, how's it going, Oscar? This is Nick, KN60AL. We've been kind of plagued with all kinds of different issues today. It's funny. We've been trying to work them out. So it seems that the W6VVR repeater is kind of on the fritz right now. It's not really performing very well. So a lot of the connections that we all kind of link through are hit and miss as far as working. But I think who is. I'm just trying to find out who was feeding in audio there for a second. That might have been you, Oscar, if your audio's up on YouTube. But yeah, so we're dealing with a few issues there. But I'm glad that you could make it. We kind of postponed talking about freestar a little bit, and now that you're on, maybe you could give us a couple of minutes of your time and just kind of go over a few things. We'll then probably follow up a little bit after that with a couple more questions from Chris. He brought up a great topic tonight, which was try to stump the net coordinators, all the people on here. So maybe somebody will have a question to try to stump you and see if we can get caught up in the act. But
so far we're undefeated, by the way, in case anyone's keeping score.
Nobody has been able to touch us. So. Let's pull you back up here, Oscar. All right. So again, this is Oscar, 2E1HWE. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. You're coming from all the way on the other side of the planet from us, and so I know that takes a little bit of effort. But why don't you just start off by maybe telling us just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, good morning or good evening to you there. Oscar 2 Echo 1 Hotel Whiskey Echo. First of all, apologies, I'm late. I just realised I need to get a new alarm clock, so sorry about that. So freestar. Obviously, hopefully, well, I'm not sure what's going on, but hopefully you're still coming out through freestar at the moment in the United Kingdom and anywhere else in the world. And basically, what is freestar? It's a very good question, Nick. It is a platform or a hub that was conceived in the UK that was designed for special events, really, and nets. That's the ethos of freestar. That's the whole point of why we did it, because we thought there was a gap in the market, I suppose, where there wasn't enough traffic here, especially in the UK. 2 meters is pretty quiet, really, some of the time. And we just thought, well, we've got a lot of repeaters redundant or just not sitting there doing not a lot. So how can we get, stuff going through them? How can we get activity going, traffic going? And Bruce and Shane, who are the two real main founders, they're quite technical. They thought, well, why don't we use the All-Star backbone to come up with something? And the rest is history, really.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have been kind of involved with Freestar, to be honest, before I even really knew what it was. I knew that you guys had that New Year's Eve net, and that's kind of like the first of my understanding of it. But I had just sort of jumped on because it was linked to the W6 VVR repeater at the time, and it's really a fantastic system. So in regards to the Freestar linking, and you had mentioned something, I wrote it down because I wanted to mention that it is also something that happens here in America. Oftentimes 2 meter, especially the repeater systems in certain areas, are really, really quiet. And so that's a struggle that I think a lot of people fight with, is like, how do we keep the activity going on the air? And then there's some areas like in the Northern California area where a lot of the people that are on the Zoom chat with us are tonight, the repeater systems just go crazy sometimes, and they're really, really active. And so it's interesting to see like the different areas, what happens. But so in reference to Freestar, how did you get involved in it?
So you just touched on it there, Nick. And it was the New Year's Eve, or over the Christmas and Christmas period. We did a couple of nets. So basically, I'm friends with a YouTuber called Mike, M0XNX, and I've known Mike for a couple of years now. We actually met through network radio, and a few years ago, me and him did a Christmas Day net, which was to connect people who, were on their own, or they didn't have family and they were on the radio. So we did a few nets on Christmas Day, I think 2 years ago now, for network radio, which really, really went well. And we thought, or he thought, should we do it again? Because it's been a couple of years. However, why don't we actually do it on a bigger, larger scale, but exclusively amateur, amateur only, not on network radio, because it was on Zello before. And he said, look, there's these two guys who are looking to start this network up. It looks interesting. They're telling me we can get out to the masses and we can get out even bigger as a footprint. Are you up for it? And I said, yeah, count me in. Let's do it. And we didn't really think much more of it, really, apart from it was going to be a one-off event. We'd do these Christmas Day nets. And when we did it, and we had all these exotic places calling in, we thought, oh, what's all this about then? This looks interesting. And we're all in lockdown here. We've been in lockdown since just before New Year's Eve, and we're still in it. And we won't be getting out of it for at least another month, maybe even longer. So a lot of people got time in their hands. I think they're getting on the radio. They're trying to kill that boredom factor. So we thought, why don't we do a New Year's Eve one? But we're going to do it bigger and better, and we'll get a special events call sign. And that'll really get people, excited and calling in from all over the world. And then the New Year's Eve one just absolutely exploded, and then as soon as that happened, the kind of Freestar network was then, conceived and born, really. It then got a name, and it's just absolutely, in the last 2 months as a hub, is snowballed, and it's phenomenal. No one expected it to get or to be as it is at the moment. I'm still pinching myself, Nick.
Yeah. That's funny. I'm reading the comments on YouTube. I'm gonna ask you kind of a joke question here, but
30 seconds, Nick. On key and then ask it.
Okay.
I'm warming up now. I'm starting to wake up.
Yeah.
So this is from another YouTuber, Jason K6FAK. He says, "Why is it called free? Isn't there a monarchy over the pond?"
Isn't there what? Sorry,
isn't there a monarchy over the pond?
So I think the name come about is Shane M0VUB, who's one of the founders. He had heavy involvement in the free DMR network. He was one of the people who was heavily involved in that. So, you know, free means free to connect, free in terms of no physical cost or charge. But free is more freedom, I think, more than anything, that you can have a play on words. And then because it is the all-star backbone that's powering the system, you know, we've got 12 servers in the cloud running the system. People don't realize how much effort it takes, you know, for seamless connections across all multiple modes with all stable audio levels, how many, you know, servers you need to run that. So the star bit is really basically all-star. It's a play on that and a respect to that, to say, look, it's free and it's an all-star freestar. So it's as simple as that. But the tagline or the slogan is freedom to connect. So, you know, we have permanent connections, we have semi-permanent connections. So basically, people are free to come and go as they please. We don't have any contract. We don't say, look, if you're going to put a repeater onto us, you have to have it on at this time or these hours. Literally, there is no rules. We're pretty relaxed. You know, we're pretty, you know, we deal with issues if there are issues, but
Oscar, that feels pretty timely right now. You know, there's you're probably aware of some other networks that are maybe going the other direction and getting a little tighter with, you know, what's going on and trying to take control. I don't want to name any names, Brandmeister, but you know, they're getting kind of criticized heavily for going the opposite direction and sort of not making it as free. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard a little bit about that.
There's a lot going on in the world, isn't there, Chris, at the moment?
Sure is, yeah.
And this is a hobby. So none of us are getting paid. You know, there's no, you know, people go, well, what's in it for you? There must be something in it for you, like financially. And there isn't. You know, if anything, it's costing money to run this network. And, you know, we're not looking for any self-gratification. We're not, you know, we don't make any money out of it. It's purely 3-4 people who are bored, sitting at home.
Hey, this kind of leads to a question for me. Hey, Oscar, nice to meet you, man. Thanks for coming by tonight, dude. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, hi there.
I know it is. I know it's really late over there, but you know, I'm really interested personally. You're talking about 12 systems in the network. It sounds like cloud servers too. Can you speak on the tech you guys are using to build your infrastructure?
Yeah, I'm probably not the best person to speak to because they're the two techies, you know, the two founders, Shane and Bruce. They're the people who run that and use it all. But fundamentally, it's all-star servers or all-star system. And these 12 servers that we've got are in the cloud in data centers, and they're all over the place in the different parts of the country. But to give you an idea, just to break it down very, you know, basic terms, because I'm not going to know much about the systems they use in terms of the software, but they have one server where we just connect all the analog repeaters to. So if you're a repeater keeper going through All-Star, we say use that server, that node, if that's what it's called, to connect all the repeaters, all the personal individuals. If you've got like a personal hotspot or whatever in your home, you'll use that other server. If you're coming in via Echo Link, you'll use a different one. And the users don't really know that. It's kind of all managed, you know, electronically. Yeah. So I don't quite understand how it all works, but it's very, very clever. Because
no, I get it. I build a couple all-star servers. I've got a couple of my own going, some ham VoIP and some a straight all-star server now. And I am totally interested on how you're managing all that. And like you said, Echo Link on one server, people's hotspot connections coming into another one. It makes sense to kind of segment that sort of stuff out. And it's good insight, man. Thanks, dude.
I'll give you a quick. This is what I thought was crazy. I won't name any names, but we had another North American hub that unfortunately kept crashing our system when they connected to us. And I found, and they're probably as big, maybe bigger than us in terms of what they're connected to on All-Star. And I found out that they were running the whole system on free Raspberry Pis in individuals' houses. And I nearly fell off my chair. So I don't believe there's anything like what we've got in terms of physical infrastructure with that many servers. And it's a credit because people forget we've got coming into the system All-Star, Echolink, WiresX Fusion, DMR. We've also got D-Star.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of XLS in your guys' network too.
Yeah. Shane loves all that. I don't quite understand it all, but we've got, analog repeaters. We've got simplex gateways coming in again on analog. We've got a Peanut. If you go on the Peanut application, you can get in that way. We've got a receive-only Zello channel.
Right. Yeah.
So, anytime you go on Freestar, it's very, very difficult to actually tell how someone's coming in because there's very little, especially from the digital side. If you're coming through D-Star, Fusion, DMR, there might be a very slight digital twang on the audio, but it's so small. Even I don't know how people are coming in. I have to ask them, unless it's an analog repeater and they're a long way from a repeater, there's white noise. But apart from that, the way they get the audio levels all set up, it's a lot of time and effort. And I think people don't realise, they take it for granted sometimes,
That's great insight, man. That's great insight. Because I think, I know what I've been able to pull off here at my house in the time that I've been a ham. And taking a look at you guys, taking a look at stuff like the wind system out of Los Angeles and stuff like that. I don't always get some of the insight in regards to, the administration of it in the back end. Makes perfect sense to segment some of this sort of stuff out. Have nodes that are more, redundancy and making sure that the circle is complete, and then kind of segmenting folk. I never really thought about that in those respects. So it's pretty cool, man. Love to talk to you about this shit offline.
Yeah, no, just very briefly, because I know probably running out of time now, but it took a lot of pain to get that, though. It wasn't as easy as it was like that instantly. There was a lot of crashes, there was a lot of disconnections, there was a lot of audio problems to then learn how to manage that. It wasn't just like it worked instantly on New Year's Eve. Every net we do every week, we're learning something more how to improve the network. So, I would have said as of last week is where we probably hit the peak in terms of we're not having any issues now with anything. Every week there's always one rogue link in the system, that might go a bit funny. But last week was the first time it just literally was seamless. It was fantastic.
This is the time you take your full backups, buddy. Full backups right now.
So, so Oscar, if
the repeaters are crashing, and I'm saying it's all working fine.
Hey, so Oscar, if people are trying to find out more information about Freestar, what's a good source for them to do that?
So there's two ways you can get information. The first one is the website, which is just under construction, but that'd be, you still got information on there, but it's just in a basic form, which is freestar.network. So that one, if you want to know all the connections, is probably the best one because there's so many. I'm not going to be able to remember them all now, but yeah, freestar.network is the website. And then for more social kind of interaction and up-to-date instant feed, I would say the Facebook pages, and we've got two. I don't know why we've got two, but we like to do things complicated here at Freestar, as you can probably imagine from what I said about the connections. But we've got Freestar International. That for the US is probably the one that you want to get connected to. Freestar International on Facebook or Freestar UK, but they both really post the same kind of stuff. The UK one's a bit more tailored to the UK, in terms of its content, but either are fine. But Freestar International on Facebook and freestar.network on the website.
Okay, perfect. Good information. Is there anybody in the chat here that has any other questions for Oscar?
I can't see the chat, Nick, just so you know.
I'm sorry, in the in the Zoom. If you should be able to pull up the chat on the very bottom if you hit more. Sometimes
right, okay.
And then there's
Let me just have a little
chat
look.
option.
Is there some questions, Nick? If you want to read them out to me, I'll I'll try and answer them.
I don't think I have any right off bat, but I'm going to turn it over to anybody that's listening. Does anybody have any questions related to Freestar, or how that connects, or any other questions for Oscar before we keep going? All right. Well, nothing being heard, we do have a fun little game going right now, Oscar. So Chris kind of came up with this on the whim, N6CMB here. He asked everybody on air if they could come up with a question to try to stump the coordinators in the Zoom chat. So the object of this game is people are going to come on and try to ask us a question that we may not know the answer, and between all of us together, we're going to see if we can answer that question. So far, they have not been able to stump us, but I'm hopeful somebody has something out there that's going to really try our capabilities and see what.
Well, Oscar, our only rule is that it's got to be like a question that they actually have in like their ham radio life about digital, whatever. It can't just be, how many stripes does a zebra have or something, like. So that's our only rule. Unless you know the answer to that one, and then we'll allow that one.
Yeah, we'll allow it. Yeah. If you know it, we'll allow it regardless. So I'll pass it back to Chris.
50.
All right, we're going to go for it, Nick, again, I guess. We're going to see what we can do, everybody. Now, you've had some time to come up with that plaguing question you've had in ham radio for the last 38 years you've had your license. Nobody's been able to answer it until tonight when you have this cast of huge brains available to you. So go ahead with your questions. We always wonder.
Jason seems a little paranoid about the FCC. He's wondering.
Yeah, I guess we could take a question from YouTube, right?
Yeah, it's on there.
Yeah.
Jason from Ham Radio TV asks, "Can the FCC come into your house with no warrant?" And hopefully, all of our diehard YouTube supporters have been out watching everything that you can get your hands on as far as content, and had the opportunity to watch that video that Josh from Ham Radio Crash Course posted. I think it was either yesterday or today, maybe a couple days ago.
Yesterday.
Yesterday. So I watched it today, and I don't even know if I want to give the answer, but I don't want to be wrong, and I don't want us to not get our points for being right. So
I'm guessing Connor knows this. Like Connor's like, undercover, got his hood down, and So I'm betting that like Connor has already studied this law closely. What's the deal? Connor, you gonna step up?
Sure, I guess. So from what I watched, they like to come do station inspections while your station is active. They mainly would do this, I would assume, with some of the broadcast spectrum stuff, but I don't know much of amateurs, and I can't answer it because I didn't watch the entire video. I actually got called out, so I had to run. So I can't answer it. Go watch the HRCC video and find out for yourself. But
oh man, we're not gonna get stumped here, are we? We got to move over then. Justin, save the team.
Okay, so we won't give away all of HRCC. I do agree. Go watch Josh's take on it. He did a phenomenal job researching it, and the credit needs to be given there. But regardless of your operating status, if you have a transmitting device over frequencies, the FCC can, without a warrant, come and inspect that. Doesn't matter where it is.
Hey, Oscar, I got a question to tie you this in with the UK a little bit. We just had recently, we've had a lot of jammer activity on some of our repeaters in the Bay Area. Not uncommon. It's probably been going on forever. Yeah. And there's a video that's making the rounds on YouTube actually about a guy who he built a jamming device, hid it close to the mountain, ran it for some time. Nobody found it. Nobody did anything about it really. And he ended up, I guess, going. If I watched it correctly, I haven't watched the whole thing. I kind of got bored. I'll be honest, but he dug it back up, and then to make himself sort of famous, he's contacted a YouTuber out of the UK to kind of like show off what he did and make his point, whichever his point is. I can't really figure out. My question for you is: do you guys have jammers in the UK? Or are you guys way too polite for that? And then if you do, any of the authorities, are they willing to get involved? Because in this case with the jammers, a lot of people report it to the FCC and nothing ever happens. If we're gonna go and find someone, we have to do it on our own.
Yeah. Okay. So firstly, I've seen that video, Chris, that you mentioned. It's actually done by someone I know, who I've had as a guest on the Top Talk show, called Lewis M3HHY.
I'm glad you remembered, because I'm subscribed to him on YouTube, so he's
so it's Lewis Ringway Manchester. So he's a foundation call sign. Not that it matters. And he does some really good different videos. His content's a lot different from what a lot of people are putting out there, really. And he likes to do things like that. He's done quite a few UK ones about jammers and people messing around with repeaters, and it's quite interesting. But I think that problem is anywhere in the world, Chris. I'm not, just because we're a small island, it's still difficult to find people doing stuff like that. And unfortunately, I think now Ofcom, who are like our FCC or whatever your version is called, equivalent, unless these people are causing interference to other users, i.e. emergency services or people who pay to use the band, that it's literally self-policed by us, the amateurs. It really, really is. And I know of jammers. Luckily, in my area, there's none, but I know of other parts in the country where there are things like that going on, and it's very, very difficult to get these people taken off the air. Unless you commit a criminal act yourself and rip down their equipment, there's nothing you can do apart from turn the repeater off. It's sad.
Yeah, and I'm kind of hitting you on some leading. I hope my dog doesn't go too crazy here. A little leading question. I also listen to like some wind system stuff out here, some big networks, in the U.S. with a lot of connected repeaters. And when you get someone who is just being disrespectful during a net, or maybe trying to really jam, or just you get those guys, right? It's really tough to track down, right? Because now you've got 58 repeaters connected, and whatever, like even finding where. So do you guys now that it's digital for you on freestar, and I'm not looking to give anyone any ideas to cause trouble on freestar, but if it happens, is it easier or tougher to track down someone?
So it depends on how they're getting into the system, is the answer to that. So in a way, it's easier to kind of diagnose, if that's the word for it, kind of where it's coming from, because we've had people before accidentally connect loops, which is always going to happen, isn't it? They're on one network and then they connect to yours and they don't realize they haven't disconnected. So with something like that, it's easy because we've got dashboards. We can instantly see where that source is coming from. Is it a personal individual or wherever it is? But if it's analog, we know it's coming from the analog side. And we can probably then work out what repeater it's coming from. But then that repeater, if that's got a 50-mile radius or 60-mile radius of coverage, good luck. You're not going to be able to then, unless the local amateurs are fed up with it on their repeater, they obviously go out and do a bit of fact finding. But we can diagnose where it's coming from in terms of what repeater on the system, and we can kill that instantly. I've had it before. We call them fart heads here. People just want to mess around. So if we get a fart head pop up on the net, within about 10 seconds, we can cut wherever we think it's coming from.
Yep.
But obviously, then if it's analog, trying to find out where they've come from, then it's going to be hard work. But what I would say to you is, I think a lot of the problem is these cheap Chinese radios, really, Chris.
Yeah, we see some of that.
I've got a few myself.
I think they're going to crack down on it now, Amazon and eBay. I thought I saw something or read something recently that said that they're going to stop listing these, Baofangs, whatever you want to call them. But when you can pick one of them up for
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, right? I mean,
ham.
it's we talk about these radios as being in one way the greatest thing for ham radio in the US that's come along in a long time, because people are able to get their hands on a $20 radio and get introduced to the hobby, right? Then and then the bad edge is any fart head, I like that, can get a hold of one of these radios and not use it for good, uses powers for evil. So
it's like anything, isn't it? There's good and bad to most things. You got to focus on the positive, but I think because they're so accessible now, I suppose the good thing is it's so accessible for newly licensed people to get on the air now, because there is apps on telephones that get you in, there is cheaper equipment, so that's all positive, that's all good. But the problem is when it falls into the wrong hands, there's probably more misuse because it's so disposable, isn't it, some of this stuff now? But what can you do? It's not a major issue. All we do here, if we're honest with you, is we ignore it. I don't know if that's a British thing, but you don't rise above it. You just pretend it's not there. You carry on. You keep calm and you carry on. There we go.
Hey,
there you go.
I see the same problem over there in the wind system in Los Angeles. They've got a massive all-star network down there. And
Okay.
I've heard, it's easy enough because I've been kicked off of their network a couple times for just having problems with my node, just keying too much, or, tuning on their network is not a good idea. I've made that mistake more than once. But I've absolutely heard jammers and stuff like that. It's like you said, once they're coming in on RF, and LA has got so much overlaid RF, it's almost impossible to get rid of some of those guys.
do we know any YouTubers in Canada? Because Canada, they're just super polite, and I bet they don't have jammers. I'm thinking we got to find someone up north of the border there, because those guys, they just wouldn't do something like that.
They would apologize.
Yeah, if they jammed, they would immediately get on and apologize.
Yeah, they're like the nicest jammers ever.
Isn't it funny? Because I've noticed that.
What's that? That the Canadians are polite.
Yeah,
They are super.
Yeah, they're just. But why is that? I'm not complaining, but they're lovely, aren't they?
I have a theory, and it revolves around hockey. That every Canadian plays hockey, right? Growing up, so they get all of their aggression out, fighting on the hockey rink during hockey games, and after that, they just all get along. It's all love and courtesy. That's my only real working theory at this point.
Hey,
I
Chris.
wasn't sure if it was the maple. I wasn't sure if it was the maple syrup, something in that maybe.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, go ahead.
Chris, I kind of going back to what we were just talking about, radios being much more easily accessible now than before, especially with the Chinese radios. I don't think those are going to go away. I think what's going to happen is Baofeng is going to adapt, and then they're going to fix the issue about being able to do FRS, GMRS, and then we're going to have a more refined UV5R. But I think they're always going to be sold. But what kind of advice would you give to someone, like say we have we probably have some new people watching, and what advice would you give to people who come across a jammer or something? Say you're on the repeater and someone starts jamming. What advice would you give to people?
This is interesting, because the like standard fare is ignore them, and that probably is the best advice. But ignoring them doesn't do anything either, typically. But at least it doesn't feed the fire, right? And it doesn't. So the thing is, just be professional. Stick to being a good ham operator. Stick to best practice. Definitely don't feed them. No insult you put out there helps with a jammer. It just feeds what they're after, right? Those kinds of things. So, there's other, not just talking about jammers, but, I think we've all been out there when we get guys that clearly aren't licensed, that are on the radio operating. Maybe they were previously they don't ID, right? They're not throwing out their call sign. You can tell after a little while, that these guys aren't, licensed working ham. So, when there's guys like that, you shouldn't be probably making conversation with them. You probably should be, and I'm going to let Mike go here next, because he's throwing up some good notes. ID yourself and then see if he IDs. And then if he doesn't, then, you definitely don't want to kind of keep interacting with those guys. Mike, go ahead.
No, Justin made a good point. This is WG5EEK. We're still going over the repeater and RF and everywhere else. So please ID.
Yeah, there you go. N6, CMB, Chris and Clayton. What do you think, Servando? I mean, you got an opinion yourself on that? Have you run into it? And what have you done?
KM6QLM. No, I was just, I had some people that actually hit me up and they were saying like, hey, I'm interested in the ham radio. Someone actually met while I was fishing, and I gave him, I told him, I was like, hey man, we're going to do this anti-net thing, tune in. So if he's listening, that's why I wanted to kind of touch on like, what would you do? And, because I know there's some new people out there listening, but for sure. Yeah. What I do is I just pretend like I don't even hear them, and that's assuming that it's not a pre-recorded thing. I think that's best case practice, but yeah, I mean,
that's a really good question. I think we should keep this conversation going just a little bit, but I am going to shut down the link to the repeater system. Unfortunately, we've had so many different issues with it tonight. Hopefully we can look at getting those worked out, but we do have Zoom going alive and well, and I've got that posted in our chat here on YouTube. So if you want to jump into the Zoom and say hi, meet and greet anybody, you're welcome to come in. But as far as the 2-meter crew anti-net, I'm going to say 7.3 to the RF portion of it, and we'll return all of these different repeaters back to their normal operation. So thanks everybody for coming out, and hope we can see you in the Zoom chat. My foot was getting tired, you guys.
Hey, I like
all of those folks out in RF.
Yeah, I don't think I think the issue is with VVR right now. I don't think it's with our digital or our link up or anything. I think VVR is having some issues again.
Yeah, I think so.
But
Justin's
it was so
doing a
weird
good deed out there and closing it out proper on RF for us. So.
But it was coming and going. Did anybody notice that? It was almost like it was almost like you were talking on HF and the band just went woo, and it was good real quick.
Mike, is it windy up there again tonight? The way the trees down here are blowing, I'm thinking it's windy there.
I mean, honestly, the repeater's been acting up again for the last few days. Wind or not.
We can't blame it all on the wind.
Oh, I don't. The repeater owner
is doing a good deed out there,
closing
out proper on RF.
So, he knows about it. He wants to get up there and fix it. His job makes him work overtime, like almost.
That's cool.
Day, so it's tough. But we love our repeater owners very much.
I've actually got something on that last topic about IDing and people. Kind of like a funny story. Not really funny, but kind of an interesting story.
Well, if it's funny, you can tell it, Connor. If it's not, then you have to hold it back. So make the call right now.
Yeah, okay.
Just make it funny.
Okay, yeah, make it funny. Yeah, I know. So, this guy, I don't know who he was. He had like a business or a GMRS license, right? And it was on a VHF ham repeater, and he was talking, right? So I listened before I keyed up and said anything, because it's one of the repeaters I maintain. And they're talking, and I don't think they knew that they were coming in on a repeater, per se. And the conversation I heard had to do with, weird enough, grocery shopping. And the list of groceries, I was sitting here going, what is going on here? They've got eggs, right? Eggs, bananas, 2 pounds of turkey, and orange juice. And then on top of that, salt and bay leaf. So the list was weird, but furthermore, when I was like, is there a station that wants to identify, they say their GMRS call sign, right? And it was like, or business. It ended with 3 numbers. It was like 3 or 4 letters and then a 3-number call sign, whatever that's called, whatever you want to call that. But it's actually been happening a lot recently here on some of the West Bay machines that we have. We've got about 5 or 6 different VHF ones, and I would say a good 7 or 8 UHF ones. That it's been occurring quite often. I'm not sure about you guys over there with any of the VVR or whatever repeaters you guys have. I'm not familiar with every one of them. But, I mean, do you guys have any of that stuff that's happening over there? Because I don't really scan that stuff.
I haven't really heard much on the repeaters per se, but we know someone who works at HRO that's given us some reports about a lot of phone calls, coming in like, what radio can I buy that will get me on every frequency, or, that kind of thing. And, so we were surprised. I was surprised to hear a little bit about that. And, they would ask about a certain radio and then say, well, do I need a license, or what's the best radio, that kind of thing. And they're buying stuff is I think the end result.
You know somebody at HRO, dude?
I do. Yeah, I know one of the people that work at HRO, but we keep that on the down low, man. Come on.
I want to know who that person is.
I don't get any discounts. I can tell you that.
They actually charge them double.
That's right.
Hey,
you gotta charge for the friendship too.
On a little bit of switch of topic, one thing that I wanted to, and this is directed to Oscar, the way repeaters work as far as what the capabilities are a little bit different in the UK than they are over here. So, we all understand that here to have a repeater, you have you have to get a repeater pair, which is basically just a agreed upon. You don't even, I guess, technically have to do it, but it's a gentleman's agreement that that you would coordinate with the band plan in your area and get a matched pair that is on a specific offset, and you let them know kind of what you're doing to keep everybody working harmoniously. But as far as the technical rules of it, you can really just go buy a repeater system and put it up for all purposes, and you're totally allowed to do that, and that works differently in the UK. And I'm going to share a web page that Oscar gave me, and maybe you could explain this just a little bit, Oscar,
yeah, sure.
so that people understand a little bit more about how that works. So let me.
Hey, while you're steering there, I want to say hi to Roy. Roy's back. We haven't seen him in ages.
Yeah,
Hey, Roy, where you been hiding?
Pardon?
Where you been hiding? We haven't seen you in ages.
Yeah, well, I keep forgetting where these nets are at and trying to find them and everything. So I finally found you guys again, and it's been a pleasure listening to everybody. And I get a lot of ideas from different people on this stuff, but I've finally got an antenna that will work with my 2730 ICOM, and so I'm getting out on that, but I'm sure not getting any code plugs for this Anytone 878 that's given me a lot of problems.
All right, well, Roy, I'll tell you what, I've got that radio and I've got some code plugs that might be able to help you out off the air or on the side. So let me turn it back over to Nick. Welcome back, and you and I either connect at the end here or through email, because that's something I can help you with.
Well, I'll give you my email over the air if you'd like it.
Are you current on or you've got my my call there, N6CMB? Can you grab my email from QRZ?
Yeah, all right. What did you that's Nick's. Greg.
Yeah, I'm Chris.
Yeah,
N6CMB. And you can find my call right on QRZ and shoot me an email, and we'll work with you and get you set up. That one's not too tough.
Yeah, it'll receive, but it's just not transmitting.
Okay.
But that was my biggest problem with that. And I'm down in a hole here between Cougar Mountain and Tagger in Renton, Washington. So, yeah, I'll send you an email and we get together that way.
Absolutely. We'll see what we can do. Great to have you back. Go ahead, Nick.
So I'll pass it up to Oscar. So as I was mentioning, the way our repeater systems work and the way our the rules that we have associated with how we connect things is just a little bit different. And we talked about that a little bit a couple weeks ago, Oscar. But this is really interesting to me, and I'm still working to understand, I guess, why it's different and why they do that. But maybe explain just in kind of a high level what we're looking at here on our screens.
Yeah, definitely. So I think just to start off and put it in, some kind of, perspective. The UK, I think, can fit the whole of the United Kingdom, including Scotland, Wales, can fit in probably. I think it's the state of Florida, North and South Carolina all together. The size of us is compared to the US in that kind of scale of like 3 or 4 states. Our country is significantly smaller than yours, so we're quite crowded in terms of population on a densely populated island. So we're a lot closer to each other. There's not big amount of spaces really compared to the US or Canada. So I think because of that, that's why the licensing is a lot stricter on who can run a repeater and the kind of restrictions that we have, because we're limited on space. There's more opportunity to cause interference to others because we're also crowded. So to give you an idea, not everyone can have a repeater. It's only in terms of a repeater as we know it, where there's an output and an input, that's only allowed to hold a license for one of them if you're a full license holder only. And we have 3 license grades here in the UK system. So if you want a traditional repeater, whether it be analog, whether it be digital, you have to be a full license holder, and then you have to apply for something called an NOV, and basically an NOV, or a notice of notification, is issued between the RSGB, who are the Radio Society of Great Britain, and Ofcom. So kind of our society kind of do it on behalf of Ofcom. They vet the people, they work out the frequencies. And there's an example here. Now, this is of my Simplex Gateway. Now, Simplex Gateway is not a repeater. So I'm an intermediate. Anyone who's a 2E1 or a 2E0, you instantly know in the UK is a intermediate level. And I'm not allowed to have my own repeater. But what I can have is something called a Simplex Gateway, which is kind of a repeater. But what it is, it's on a lot smaller scale. So there's not an input, nor is there an output. It's a simplex, one frequency only, which my one is 1452875. And basically it's QRP. It's a 1 watt station that's connected to IP or the internet. In this situation, I'm connected to All-Star. And obviously the freestar network is what's coming out on that output. And you can be an intermediate license holder. So it's only probably got, 20-mile radius. It's not going to set the world on fire. And obviously it depends on your location, how far that 1 watt goes out. But it is restricted to smaller antennas and it's localized stuff. But the power is, if you've got multiple gateways, then all connected via All-Star, you can get out to a bigger area. So it's all about numbers, really. But yeah, our structure is very, very different. And I think the reason for that, Nick, is purely because we're all living on top of each other,
Yeah, it's really interesting to see the differences. And just out of curiosity, you were talking about, when upgrading your license. So the way we do our testing here, we have like a group of volunteers that are called volunteer examiners. So after you, once you're a general or an extra, you can can go take another qualifying. It's not even really an exam. It's more of like a self-study guide. And then you submit that, and then you get volunteer examiner credentials to give you the ability to administer tests as a group to people that are trying to test and get their license. How does that work over there? Do you have people that just volunteer, or is it like paid personnel with the administrations that govern amateur radio?
Yeah, to my knowledge, it's all volunteers. Okay. When it comes to the examinations, normally the clubs manage that. Most examinations up until COVID, it was club volunteers getting students through, organising the examinations and sitting with them, watching them do the exams, so they know there was no, cheating or anything going on. But now it's quite an interesting what's going to happen, because you've eradicated that need for a physical. We're saying that there is still a person, but they watch you remotely. And apparently, I haven't done an exam in 20 years. That's when I passed, so I haven't done any recently. But apparently, they still do need people, but they remotely have to watch you via 2 cameras. This is what I'm told. So there's a camera obviously on you, and then you have to have a camera on the actual paper. Yep. So if you were looking at me now, you can't see what's below me, can you? I might have a phone, I might have something I'm cheating, or someone else could be fiddling around with it. So there has to be 2 camera positions, one like this, and then another one from another angle. But it's doing really, really well. This year last year in the UK, 2020 was the biggest amount of people who took the exam. I think there was over 4,000 people sat online exams.
That's great.
Last year.
That's cool.
They did that with us too.
Yeah.
Like,
our community is a lot smaller than yours in terms of the population. So, that was a record-breaking year as far as I'm aware.
That's awesome. Hey, one thing I want to mention. So you guys all see the gentleman with the flames behind him, right?
Yeah, is he a bit hot there?
He's on fire. So let me tell you this. This guy just got his upgraded license to general.
Wow.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Burning to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how'd it go, man?
Thanks. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I applied, or I was studying for the test, just memorizing the practice exams and everything, and then Friday night I was like, okay, maybe I should just sign up. And I saw there was an opening for an online test on Sunday, and I turned in my paperwork or whatever is online, and it was just to go through to do the test online like that Sunday. So it was like Saturday morning when I turned it in. And so I was like freaking out a little bit. Am I going to make the PayPal payment? Are they going to send me a Zoom link in time? All this and that or whatever. And they got it all to me in time. And I took the test, and they do the thing where you have to like slowly scan your whole room, like, and then the ceiling, and then whatever's under you. And then they have to, then there's like 3 VEs over there just watching your eyes. And then you could have optional phone also to videotape you, or as you're doing the test, so that they know that you're not getting any kind of assistance or anything like that. But they have also the option if they hear people in the back, or if somebody kind of walks in, they could like end the test at that point. So you got to tell everybody in the house, it's like, I'm taking a test, do not bother me, don't make any noise, don't use up any of the internet for like videos and things like that. So if they had any kind of problems with the internet, then they could cut you off at that point. It was good.
Well, that's awesome, Bert. I'm really happy for you. I'm glad you got that. And then poor Terry, she's down there. She got her she passed her test. Terry, how long ago did you pass it? Your video's not up, but I'm hoping you can hear us.
I can hear you, and okay. I can talk. Can you guys hear me?
Yep. When did you pass?
On February 20th. I went. There were 27 of us there in Carmichael at 7 a.m. and in the freezing cold, and none of us. And I talked to the test guy yesterday, and he said he mailed everything the Monday after the test. And of course, he did call the ARRL a few days ago, I think, and he was told that they hadn't received it yet. And I was like, ugh.
I know that there has been some mail delivery issues across the Midwest due to different weather conditions and all kinds of stuff. I'm seeing that with work and things like that. But don't lose faith. It's going to happen. It took a little while for me to get my call sign. I think it was like almost 3 weeks the first time I took the technician, and it's going to come soon, very, very soon.
Well, it delayed. I ordered an ICOM a couple days ago, and because I didn't list a call sign on my order through the main training company, they basically called me to make sure I understood what I was ordering. I'm pretty sure they probably have people who order radios all the time and don't understand that they're ham radios. But because I didn't list a call sign, I don't know if it's a liability thing or what have you, I had to call them this morning, first thing, and then they shipped it. So,
yeah,
I was like, I'm just so impatient too.
It's funny that you mentioned that, and I'm kind of curious because I remember reading some stuff online, and I think this might have been more prevalent years ago, but for a radio that was designed for amateur radio use, it used to be that nobody would sell it to you unless you had a valid call sign. And I don't know if that's since passed. I know that with the way the world progresses, I mean, obviously people want to try to be profitable and sell product and stuff, but I think that that's a good thing, to have that credential to buy. Is there anybody that has maybe been around for a while in ham radio here that could attest to that? Did that used to be something that was really common?
This is Rick. I've got a comment.
Yeah.
I do recall that mail order used to be where you had to, there was just a thing that said, enter your call. Now, you didn't know whether they ever looked it up or checked with the FCC or anything, but it was just a little bit of a barrier that on your order form, you had to put your call down for some reason. And I always wondered if they actually checked, but that used to be part of ordering.
I've heard of this stuff more often lately myself. Like, I've seen it on the Discords because I can't buy radios that much. But still, I do understand people are getting called for, their call sign specifically. And,
Well, the good news is they FedExed it, and it should arrive on Saturday.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on the new radio and on the new call.
I got a power supply. Yeah, power supply coming on Friday. I already have my antenna. I measured, and I have the 30 feet of coax that I'm going to need to put it up. I just need to figure out what's the best pole to raise it more than the 10 feet that the antenna is. My brother told me there's some like rail things that you can buy at Lowe's, and so I'm going to do that and mount it out here outside my office. So I'm ready to go.
So who else we got? Oh yeah, go ahead.
Just listening with interest about obviously people upgrading their licensing and just passing. How, if you're a UK amateur, or anyone across the world, how can you tell when you speak to a station in the US what grade of call sign they've got? Is it the call sign's different, the prefix of it, or how does it work there?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's challenging because here in the U.S., you can apply for what's called a vanity call at I'm going to get corrected if I'm wrong here. I think it's at any license level. Is that correct? Yeah, at any license level, you can apply for a vanity call sign, and so
there's some restrictions though. You can't just get anything at any license level.
Yeah.
So there's a few things will indicate someone's like an extra.
Yeah.
But yes, and I'm a 6, which should indicate my location, but I could change it to a 1 when I put in for a vanity. So it all comes down to.
Okay.
So is that the 6? Is that the 6? Sorry, I'm learning.
6 is California. Yeah. So when you're issued the call sign, you're going to get issued one based on your geographic location. But when
it's also Hawaii.
Oh, it's also Hawaii. Okay, so and Hawaii and California, and then like up here in Washington, we're 7. So I believe Washington and possibly a couple other states are 7s in the middle. So that's the number in between the call sign, and then it's also arranged by either like a 2x3 is your standard issue call. So KN6 DAL is a 2, and then a number digit, and then 3 different alpha digits. So that would be a 2x3. Like what Chris was alluding to, if you are an extra, you can apply for a shortened call sign, like a 1x2 or a 2x1. That's how you can tell if someone's an extra right off the bat. And then as a general, I think you can do a 1x3. But you can't do the 1x2. So as a general, you could apply and get, say, so see how Chris has his call sign is N6 CMB. There's no 2 digits in the beginning, or 2 alpha numbers in the middle in the beginning. It's just 1 and then his number. So that's how you would kind of tell, but there's really no way to be sure.
Okay. So the numbers kind of dictates where in the country you possibly pass your license. I get that, but what about the prefix? So I'm looking at people. We've got WG, Nick's got November Golf, Rick's got Whiskey Alpha. Some people like Bert's just got one letter, N for November. What is that, just random, or I'm assuming not, because I hear a lot of, all them letters seem very familiar. How does the first letter get dealt out?
Nick, you're a tester. You should know this, man.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is there's no
there is, right? There's
yeah.
There is.
It's part of a sequential licensing program. So now there's some of those letters are restricted. You can only get certain ones. But if you find like all of the guys that were kind of licensed in a certain area, they're going to be KN6 in California, right? KN is sort of where they're at in the sequence, and then you can go back in the alphabet, right, and find guys that are like alphas that were licensed a long time ago, or so you can. It's kind of giving you a clue of how old the license is if they kept the license that they were issued. So like we know when we hear on the radio out here, like KNs, that they're all relatively new licenses. Within, but Bobby Lee is a KD6 KWB, so he's I know that a D versus an N is pretty significant difference in number of years. He's been a ham with that for 30 years.
Okay, so my final question on this subject is: does your call sign stay with you all throughout your amateur career? So once you've passed a technician, is that your call sign for life, or a bit like the UK, when you change your grade of license, do you change your call sign?
Only if you elect to take one of these, you choose to change it. So if there's an available call that you meet the criteria for, you can change your call. But if you don't, you would have that call forever.
This is Rick. Let me comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, I've been a ham 50 years, and it used to be actually that when you moved, you needed to, in the United States, you needed to get a call sign. So 6 meant you actually are a resident of California. But that went away probably 30 years ago. And that's why I'm still a 6 up in Washington, because when I was licensed, I was down in California. So yeah, this is I think where you're initially issued still, but then you can move around and keep it. So I've been a 6, even though I haven't lived in California since mid-1980s. So, and I did post in chat too. I thought one of the questions was the first letters of a call, and in chat I posted the ARRL list of by country throughout the world where they start. Just today I used that list because I was listening to a 4X, and I thought, what in the world is a call that starts with the digit 4,
right,
and then has an X, and it turns out that's Israel. So anyway, the guy was in Israel.
So I'm also sharing this screen with you guys. This was posted in the YouTube comments by Jason at Ham Radio TV, and this gives you a breakdown in the United States of what different numbers are associated with the call as a representation of its geographic area. So like Washington through Arizona, Montana, and Wyoming are all in 7, as well as Alaska. And then like Mike had, WG5EK had said 6 is going to cover California and Hawaii. And then they're spread out with different ones throughout the rest of the states.
Yeah, whenever I see like the UK calls there, it doesn't like sort of roll off the tongue for us, because
it's a bit like your system. It's all over
right.
the place.
It feels odd, right?
Yeah.
To say
it's very difficult for any foreigners to, I think the only one most people know is an intermediate call sign, because instantly 2E0, 2E1, it's intermediate. So we're a bit different. You can't, if you know what to look out for, what license grade people are. But by the sound of it, US, you'd never ever know that. All you would know is maybe where they originally passed their exam, because the prefix, the state of wherever they brought.
Only if they have a short, and Rick, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you probably know for sure. But if they have a short enough call, then we know that they're at least an extra, or what might have been an older license name before extra was extra, and then there are a few restricted things that would tell you what someone is by having one of those restricted, which I've never run into anybody with one of those. But
and one final interesting thing, just to, I don't know if it's the same with you over there, but here, if I travel in the United Kingdom, i.e., you know, we're one big island, but we've got Wales and Scotland connected. If I go into Scotland or Wales, I have to change my call sign to, you know, let people know. So if I went to Scotland, I would become 2 Mike 1 Hotel Whiskey Echo. I would change, instead of the E stands for England.
Wow.
Now you'd think it would be S for Scotland, but it doesn't work like that. But if I go to Scotland, I would then have to change the prefix to 2 Mike 1. And if I went to Wales, it'd be 2 Whiskey 1. If I went to Northern Ireland, it would be 2 India 1. Isle of Man, 2 Delta 1. So wherever we travel in the UK, we have to change part of it to dictate what part of the UK we're transmitting from.
If I went to Wales, I wouldn't be able to understand a word anyone was saying anyway, so it really wouldn't matter what they.
Welsh is not too bad. It's the Scots up north of the border that are a little bit more. The Glaswegians, they're probably a little bit more difficult to.
I'm the opposite. The Welsh are tough for me. I can get the Scots. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Northern Irish is quite a tough one as well. They talk quite quickly. But yeah, when you're down south here near London, we're pretty easy going on the ears.
That was a cool link that you shared there, Rick. I just shared that and put it. I think you guys saw it too, but yeah, that shows all of the different prefixes. I'm gonna post that on YouTube there so everybody can see it.
You know, I've got another comment. This is just some interesting history. But when I was licensed back in '71, was it? As a novice, a class that doesn't exist anymore, you got an N in your call. So everybody knew that WN6NDR was a novice, beginner, give him room, that kind of thing. And you only had 1 or 2 years, I forget, to upgrade, or you lost your license. And
yeah,
so
I was going to throw that in there.
That turned the N to an A. So when I upgraded, the N went away and I became WA6NDR.
Yeah, we've got the same here. So we can instantly tell a novice station. They all start with M7 or M6. So it helps give them priority sometimes if you hear them calling, because they're on QRP. They're only allowed 10 watts output here as a novice, which is very low. So I think it's a good thing that we still have that here, because it helps encourage them stations. You know, if I'm hearing a lot of people call, I'll always give priority to an M7 because it's probably a lot more difficult for them to get in, you know?
I agree. Yeah, I wish we had something that kind of showed right from the call if someone was a technician or a general or even an extra, just so you knew. Unfortunately, our system, I feel like that has kind of been lost. It sounds like it was there before, but that was way before my time. And I just can't tell unless it's a new call. I can usually tell, like my call is fairly new. All the KNs, they're still doing KNs. And then they're gonna go, and then they'll fold over. Like Michael up in the upper right hand corner on my screen is KN6BXX.
Hey, Bob.
And
what's going on?
I need to mute myself.
You're good. I got you. I was like, huh? But yeah, KN6BXX up there in the upper right hand corner. He, that's your original call, right, Michael? Yeah. So KN6, he's the same prefix and number as me, but BXX is an earlier call sign than DAL. And so when did you get licensed, Michael?
May 14th, 2019.
Yeah, and so I was July of 2019. So that's kind of the sequence of how that goes. But as soon as somebody changes it, like Connor is K7CBL, that's a vanity call. And so I would have no way of being able to tell what he is.
Or like Fred up in Fairfield, W1FRD, he changed that with his vanity as well.
Yeah.
Like I
and
changed.
then everybody changes their call signs so often, you know.
Yeah.
It's like
Mike's.
I've changed mine twice. I've changed mine twice, and I actually changed. I applied for my vanity as soon as I got my call.
Yeah, me too.
Because I was like, I couldn't get KN6 HLJ fully out, and it was just like.
Oh, you think that's
right.
bad?
I was like,
I had JGV. I had it's over there on the wall. What was it? Hold on. KM6 GJV.
Mine was the worst.
Go ahead.
N6DUI. Driving under the ball.
Oh, I would have kept that one around. That's not bad.
So you know what else I've noticed?
Actually, Mike, you have the best excuse for changing to a vanity sign, dude. Honestly.
Imagine saying, what was the call? What was the call?
KN6DUI.
Mobile.
Right?
Yeah, mobile.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's horrible.
So
man.
you know
That's
what's
horrible.
also I've noticed, like since we're doing this UK to America comparison, is the UK. You guys are like all about phonetics. You guys constantly. Right. So one of the like unwritten rules is on repeater systems. They typically discourage the use of phonetics because your signal is usually clear enough that you don't need to use it to get out. And then on HF, they recommend that we use phonetics to make sure that. And then if somebody asks for clarification on your call sign, you would say it to them phonetically. But what I've noticed, and I think it's the coolest thing ever, is like almost every single time you have an interaction, and especially when I'm listening to it on freestar, someone will come in phonetically with the call sign, and then another person will respond with their own call sign, and then phonetically again call back to the person with their call sign, all phonetically, and so it's like their call signs are drilling into your brain the whole time.
Well, it's not a condition of the license. Definitely, it's not something we have to do. I just think it's just the culture. It's just something for years we've probably done, and I didn't even realise it was a thing until you just pointed it out to me. It's just pretty normal behaviour. So I think maybe just for clarification, we just all do it by habit maybe, but it's definitely not a requirement. Our licensing structure says you have to give your call sign as and when is necessary. I think it used to be back in the day you had to say it every 15 minutes.
Okay.
But now it's kind of common sense prevails, and you say it as much or as little as you need to. There's no fixed rule, but there's definitely nothing that says it has to be phonetically. But maybe it's just a British thing that we just all, dot the I's and cross the T's, as we say.
Do you guys ever make any silly different phonetics for it instead of using like the standard phonetic alphabet? An example would be instead of for me, instead of Kilo November 6 Delta Alpha Lima, be like I don't even really know a funny one for me. Does anybody have a funny one that you use for your own call? Like some people will say Nancy or Sugar or something like that. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah. Willie assembled 6 non-destructible radios.
Yeah, stuff like that. Do you guys ever joke around like and make your own acronyms up for them?
Yeah, it doesn't happen often, but yeah, if you're all having a bit of a laugh and a giggle, then there might be a time when you do that, but you'd only do it as a one-off. You wouldn't permanently use it. But what I've noticed is VHF UHF culture is different from HF. On HF, it seems like anything goes. Like on HF, I can get away with saying Honolulu Whiskey Echo, where on VHF UHF, I'd never dream of doing that. People would think, what's he going on about? What's this dude all about? So, I don't know what it is, but UHF, VHF, you stick to the normal phonetic alphabet. However, on HF, I think you just make it up as you go along because it's an international thing, isn't it?
I've never actually thought about that sort of stuff, like making one up, but I think I'm killing it every day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who is that guy? There's a guy he's just a powerhouse HF signal, and I want to say he's out of California. and I want to say it's Japan Whiskey Sugar is how he says his call sign or something to that regard. And he contests all the time, and so whenever there's a contest coming on, I hear him coming on, and I just always hear the tone in his voice, and I hear him say sugar, and I know it's that same person, and he's just belting out his call, but he says it differently, and I think to make it stand out, to try to get as many contacts as possible.
I've got a comment that's related. You know, I'm a member of the Amateur Radio Emergency Service, and during emergencies and emergency prep and all this stuff is very formal. And you have to use the right mnemonics. You have to speak mnemonics at the right time. People are writing this down. There's records being kept, you know, of who said what, when, sent this over there, sent that over there. So there is the extreme of formality whenever there's emergencies going on.
What about W1FRD? So I hear him on Simplex all the time. I hear him on the radio all the time. And it's not necessarily that he does phonetics, but he does like kind of put a pitch to it, like a radio DJ.
Mm-hmm.
W1FRD. I can't get his, but you absolutely know it's him when he's on the radio.
W1FRD.
Yeah, he always got that. He always has that FRD emphasis, and he does it well. It sounds like a radio host, but I'm like, oh, that's right on the radio. It's
Hey, we got Ben. We got Ben here in the chat. I haven't heard from you yet tonight, Ben. How you doing?
Go and unmute. I don't think he hears us or not.
W6LLB. Ben, you still there? We'll see. I asked him to unmute. Ben, wake up, buddy. You're live on YouTube. Let's do this.
There you go. Hey, Ben.
Are you you're having some bandwidth problems, I think. Can you hear us okay, Ben? I'm going to go ahead and mute that again.
Oh, you muted. Okay.
Yeah, I can't I don't know if his internet might not be working very well to get through.
That could be. Well, this is only his second time here, so he'll get the hang of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to turn your video off to get your sound to come in.
Oh.
Sometimes. So that
I saw everybody on the Ham Radio TV Discord was doing the internet testing.
I'm good, thank you. Glad to be here.
Hey Ben, how's it going?
Looks like it sounds a little bad.
Yeah.
He's got a bad delay.
Yeah, you got some latency going on. Yeah, try turning your video off.
Turn off the YouTube.
Oh, that might be why.
Yeah. So Ben,
just turn the volume down on the YouTube if you can.
Yeah, turn the volume down on your YouTube and yeah,
it's a learning curve.
You might have to shut off your video. That's okay.
I don't know if it's bandwidth. I mean, I
still
can see
you.
Ben fine.
It's a Novell server is what it is.
It's something audio. It's not a bandwidth issue. He's definitely got the bandwidth for it.
We're gonna put March 3rd. Well, it's March 4th for Oscar, but we're gonna put March 3rd down as the connectivity nightmare night for things not working.
Hey, by the way, too, I was on VV earlier. Some guy from New Zealand was trying to contact. I forgot what system was using. He was trying to contact us on VDR, and I was trying to tell him to go to your channel there. And there, I didn't get his call sign. It was from Christchurch, New Zealand.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. There.
Really?
Freestar has is linked to New Zealand, so I'm sure it's coming in through that.
Freestar. Okay.
Yeah. So Freestar's connected at certain times to the NZ hub.
Yeah.
From what I've heard in New Zealand, it's actually pretty, like, ham radio, it's more of the digital stuff over there. They don't do a lot of analog. There's HF, but when it comes to UHF, VHF, they're a lot more on digital than they are on analog, because I've got a buddy over there who just bought he's actually going to get licensed. He's just moved in this perfect property. It's got a, 40-foot tower in the yard from the previous owner. Which is pretty good for, the New Zealand, if you're familiar with the terrain, if you just look it up on Google Earth.
Quite honestly.
Yeah. But you know, he wants to get his license, but he's like, I don't want to go buy a radio and stuff like that, and blah, 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 right? And I was telling him, Baofeng, in New Zealand, you can't buy a ham radio without a license.
Oh, that's really a good rule.
No, you can't get that, you can't get a radio. So he got an SDR, what is it, one of the RTL SDR dongles, and I guess he's having fun messing around on it. Plus, I believe they have, similar to the UK, I don't know if it's exactly the same, but all their public safety stuff is where the UK's 4-meter band is, 70 meg. So,
okay. Yeah, 4
yeah,
meters.
so he's actually having a blast listening to some of the public safety stuff. And I guess he's messing around trying to get some ham stuff, but it's not as active on analog. He says he hears a lot of weird clicking noises, and sure enough, he sends me a recording, and it's DMR. Out of all
copyright,
things.
dude.
So it's like, yeah.
So I understand with the online purchases on like Amazon how it would be difficult to stop the sale to a non-amateur, but through like your links through like HRO and some of these other private holders, I can't see how that would negatively affect their business in any way. Why would you want to sell an amateur radio to someone who's not an amateur? That's just my question, I guess. Why would you want to, if it's just for the profit, I understand that, but you're not really, I mean, if you're in it for the profit, you're in the wrong business, because there's less than 1 million amateur radio operators in the United States, and there's 360 plus million people. You can find a different way to be profitable. If you're doing it because you love the hobby and you want to support it and you want to have a business that does well doing that, then wouldn't you want to progress the hobby by selling to people that are in the hobby?
Yeah, I think that. Also, another thing with New Zealand, I found out, it's actually, I believe it's legally they can't sell it.
Oh, really? There's a law.
If I believe so, because my buddy said that it'll get stopped at over what their version of customs or whatever coming into the country. It'll be stopped. You can't even say, because I was like, how about you buy a Baofeng, have it shipped to my house, and I'll send it to you. And he's like, I will never see it. They will send me a letter in the mail and ask me what my it's like they have their own version of an FRN or something like that, and you give them the number and your call sign, and then they release it and send it to you. So even on their sites domestically on the island, right, you can't necessarily do it. It just gets stopped wherever it goes. You have to provide license, even on things like their version of eBay, which is, I don't remember the name of it, but yeah.
You know, it's an interesting conversation in regards to this sort of stuff, because I know that America's talking about limiting Baofengs on Amazon out here. There's, you know, a lot of talk about that these days. You know, I understand, you know, the potential of putting something like that in somebody's hand who knows enough to program it and start to really be a jammer or something like that. But when I hear people talk about like Baofengs are bad, and I think that stuff like that kind of got me into the hobby and got me so hot on, you know, doing FT8 or you know, moving through a bunch of digital modes or whatever, you know. I think it's a rock and a hard place, because it's kind of it's a really easy way to get somebody into the hobby. Somebody, you know, low cost basis to get somebody interested in radio, and I'm about that myself, and that's how I did it. So it's kind of a double-edged sword with that sort of thing. Besides, a Baofeng today is going to be a Mercedes in 5 years, man. It's like Hyundais.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to buy a Hyundai back in the day, and now they're dope.
Now that's a cool radio.
Ban them. It could be a precious commodity. You know, I don't know how much you pay over there, but you know, this is a DMR version. But the normal UV5R or whatever the basic one is, I think is like £30 here.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is in dollars, but it's cheap. It's nothing. So if they do a ban on them, they might all go up in value, and we can all make some money.
Yeah, right.
A precious commodity.
So you know what's funny,
Absolutely.
Oscar, that radio that he has there, I actually did a little bit of research on that after we talked about that a few weeks ago. So that is not just a UV5R, you guys. That's a what is it? A D? Read the.
It's a RD5R, and I actually got this from the US. This is from Radio Oddity.
Yeah, and
so it's got a special Radio Oddity. Well, actually, I've taken it off, but it did have a Radio Oddity antenna.
It's a DMR radio.
It's a DMR Baofeng.
This is the same thing. RD5R, DMR radio.
That's it.
And this is the UV5R for comparison.
Yeah.
Very similar.
See, it's funny because I hear a lot of hams go, oh, who would own a Baofeng? Who would own a Baofeng? But I've got like 2 or 3 of them, and I'm super happy that I still got them. I'm not going to take my FT3D out, mountain climbing, dude. I'm going to take my Baofeng. And if it falls down the cliff, I'm not going to feel bad at all. I'm going to get another one. I mean,
I would probably go down and get it. I would go after it. I'm sorry. They're all precious to me. I'm going after it.
You know what? My point being is they absolutely have a point,
Yeah.
a use, and
Absolutely.
I'm hard pressed to find a ham who really loves doing this stuff who doesn't own one. You know.
Yep.
They're
Absolutely.
disposable, aren't they? You know, if you want to go out portable, and you're worried about your equipment getting wet or soggy or damaged, if you're into extreme sports or whatever and you've got a radio, they are disposable. If you drop it, you don't care, do you? Just go and buy another one. If it gets blemished or damaged, it's no big deal. You get over it. Where if I had a $400 FD3, I think I'd be a little bit upset if something happened to it,
There was a dude talking about it earlier. He wanted to Mars mod his FT3D or whatever, and I'm like, ooh, I'm about like modifying radios, but I would do that to my Baofeng. I'm like, yeah, let's crack this bad boy open, start soldering away. But FT3D, I was like, I wouldn't put a soldering iron to that thing, dude. I wouldn't do it. It's I'm known to make little piles of metal dookie with solder and welding, anything metal. Hey, Mike, what do you got? Oh, you're that guy too?
Well, hey, you guys, I'm going to, we'll keep the chat open for just a few minutes longer, but I'm going to shut down our stream to YouTube. So we'll just take a minute and say thank you to everybody out there, and a big thanks to Oscar for making the trek out tonight to tell us a little bit about Freestar. We really appreciate that, and you're welcome on here anytime that you want to come on and join and say hi and hang out with us. I know it's a really odd time of night to be there, but if you ever find
next
yourself,
time I'll try and arrive on time. So sorry about that.
Oh, it's
very
no problem
embarrassed.
at all.
Don't worry, Steve.
It's tough, and Chris oftentimes will jump in too, but he's late quite a bit just because the time zone is just so wildly different. So it's great to have you out here, and hopefully maybe take just a second before we go to tell everybody about Top Talk and about the time that's on.
Yeah, so I'm privileged to hold the flagship net on the Freestar network, which is every Saturday evening at 21:30 UTC. So I'm not sure what time that is in the afternoon for you guys over there, but we normally have a guest on most weeks. It's a topical talk show, really, and it goes all across the Freestar network, all across the world. It's our biggest connection of the week. Everywhere's connected, and we encourage everyone to call in and get the conversation going. That's the whole reason we're on the airwaves, to talk to people, to learn, and inspire each other, and feed off each other with ideas and stuff. So anyone's welcome to join, and apart from that, Freestar's always on. So even though I think most of our US traffic comes through the Vacaville repeater group, I know we're only really connected to that network when we have our nets, but other times you can still get into Freestar anyway, whether you're digital or analog. There's so many different ways to get on. Even if you haven't got a radio, you can get in on a smartphone application or a PC. So Freestar's always open. It's obviously free as well, which is nice, and everyone's welcome in North America to join us whenever they wish.
Hey, awesome. Oscar, plug your URL again, your URL, your website.
Yes, it's freestar.network.
Cool,
Freestar.network. It is under construction, so it's not the greatest website at the moment, but it has the essential information, which is how to get in, and I think you'd be amazed by every base is covered. I don't think there's a way that you can't get in. I don't know anything else out there that it's got so many ways in terms of different platforms.
I've been over there. You guys have D-Star, like XLS reflectors, D-Star, YSF, DMR, just all of it. All of it over there.
Everything's
Tons
covered.
of All-Star.
It really is a super unique system. It's a pleasure to have met you and met the other people involved in it. For clarification for the people on our end, it is 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and that's on Saturdays. So definitely come out and check it out. And if you're looking for more information, it's in the description on YouTube. You can find links to the websites and such. So I hope that you guys make it out to check in on the Top Talk Net, and you can introduce yourself to Oscar. And if you still want to talk with us for a little bit in Zoom, we're going to be on here for a few more minutes. But I'll say 7-3 to the live stream. So you guys all have a good night.
73s, everyone on you.